Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Select Generation podcast. Today, we have a very special episode. Every episode is very special, as you all know. But today, I'm excited about the conversation. We've got Dimas from Supra Soccer Agency. So, usually on the past few podcasts, we've been having like ex-players, ex-coaches talking about kind of their experience and from like inside the game. And obviously, Select Generation, we're an agency. And we're always trying to kind of educate you guys, educate the audience, like see different perspectives of the game. Like I said, we've had players, we've had coaches. Now we're like, a lot of you obviously hear my perspective a lot as an agent. But now I think talking to Tim, he's obviously got a different perspective from what his agency does, how they operate in soccer, some tips for you guys. And I've got a script. We'll see how it goes. But we're just going to talk about football, his opinion, like what he's thinking about, kind of trends in the game, and how everything is going, and we're just going to talk about football. So Tim, I appreciate your time, man. Thanks for being here. Who are you? What's your story? Where are you from? What's kind of your soccer story?
My name's Dimas, as we mentioned. Thank you for having me on today. My soccer story started many years ago. I think it's a little bit different than the average American, just because I have the Eastern Bloc Mediterranean family build up, but I was spent a lot of my time in Germany when I was younger, and what's there to do other than play football? So that was my first taste of it, and then I think the passion came when Greece won the Euros over Portugal. And as an American, you see baseball teams win championships and basketball teams and stuff like that, but the euphoria, maybe I want to say, that came when Greece won, and you just see everybody in tears at the bar, and you're like, this is what patriotism feels like, this is what nationalism feels like. You're just like, yeah, man, I'd never felt that in any other sport. So like those two merging together drove that spirit in me that I was like, hey, I got to do something in this world with football. Unfortunately, playing was never in my field, but I managed to find a way, and now I get to represent an agency and work together with other agents and help athletes find their dream and make sure that they stay on the straight line to having a full successful career.
Nice, man. Awesome. Love that. So, I mean, similar to kind of, I totally get you. Like I played in college, but I wanted to stay in football. You know, it's tough to stay in football if you're not a player, or if you're not a coach. But because your role at the agency is a little bit different. You're not like specifically an agent per se. Your title is Chief Relations Officer.
Yes.
So talk to us. What does that mean? Like, what do you do?
So there's two avenues that I get to work on every day. The first one is obviously building relations for the agency overseas with different clubs. Obviously, the more connections you have, the more you're able to help your players navigate their path, be it that our market is mostly MLS. We want to help our guys make that transition overseas. So the more doors that are open for them, the better it is. As well as for youth players, obviously we try to find some young talented players and give them the head start that they might need to see what it's like to experience European football at a young age, so they know what they need to work on at an earlier age than the pros that are already set in their ways. So opening the doors to academies and stuff like that is really important, and me building those relationships where they trust us as an agency to bring quality players and not just bring anybody there is an important thing. And on the other end, I do a lot of branding and marketing work for our athletes, trying to find markets that they want to be a part of, things that are going to help them be better athletes on and off the pitch, and working with those companies to collaborate on different deals to, again, reassure our players that they are getting the support they need.
Love that. Love that. That's awesome. That's really interesting. So, like Select Generation, we're an agency. We're more kind of like a college agency. We have like European pathways, college pathways for players. We're trying to get our players to the next level. How would you, if someone said, what is Supra Soccer Agency? What do you guys stand for? What's your mission? What's the description for Supra Soccer Agency?
And it's really funny you asked that, because this year we launched our mantra of Supra Man. We want to make sure that we are elevating our players in not just on the field characteristics. We want our players to be the ultimate version of themselves, right? And when we look for athletes and try to guide them, we want the ones that are assured of themselves. I think that's one of the biggest things when you try to find the pro athlete, the college athlete, or the guy that just missed the tick, is that perspective that they're ready, that they inside themselves feel that they have that Superman type of mentality. So us as an agency, that's what we try to find within the players is who's ready for the next level. How do we nurture it? How do we guide it? And then how do we make it explode onto the market?
Got you. And then in terms of like levels of players, you talk about academies, MLS. If I'm a player listening to this and I'm like, oh, maybe I want to work with that agency, or maybe there's someone that I could use them. What players are you looking after? Are you looking for guys that are already at MLS academies? Are you looking for guys already in the MLS? Are you looking for guys out of college? What's your like player portfolio like? Who are the players that you're working with?
Being a boutique agency, and I say boutique because it's just the three of us, we're trying to find the ready-made guys that are able to transition to the next game. If we're looking at the academy aspect, we're looking for young players that are already establishing themselves and that just don't have that guidance really to playing for the team that they're currently on or transitioning them to a European opportunity. And then for the pro guys, we're obviously looking for the USL Championship MLS guys that are of the level, that are competitive, that we see not just standing in the USL Championship or in the MLS, but have that potential to make the overseas jump to Europe. I mean, if you look at our roster, I think any one of our guys in the MLS have that capability between Jack McGlynn, Diego Luna, Bryce Duke, and Bodie Hidalgo. These are four guys that have really christened themselves in the MLS and have the intangibles that are necessary, both on and off the field, mentally and physically, to make that kind of jump. So those are the borderline areas that we look into when we're trying to focus in on an athlete.
Interesting. Cool, good. And then a lot of like I've been getting this question a lot, like, and we've kind of been trying to do some storytelling about like Select Generation, how we started, who we are. Like I'm trying to kind of explain that there's a lot of pathways in football other than just playing professionally or going into coaching, like outside, like after college or pre-college after high school. So for Supra, how did it start? Like you talked about you weren't really playing, you were watching soccer growing up as a kid, it was kind of a passion of yours. Did you start the agency? Were you brought in with your friends or your partners, or what's the story of Supra?
Supra was founded by my partners, Mario DeMarco and Peter Corto. About 5-6 years ago, they were working with another agency and decided to take the risk of going on their own playing field. And I had met Peter through a mutual friend. At that time, like I said, I wasn't really involved in football. I had done those European trips to Italy with a guy that was coaching and had seen it. I had built a network of people in Europe that wanted to bring guys to MLS, and I was always bothering Peter. I was like, hey, I got this guy. You think he's good? Hey, I got this guy. And, a few years later, Peter and Mario, we all had a sit down. We had a nice talk, and we decided that I would be an asset to the team just because of my passion and my drive and the ability and want to work, right? I feel like that's something that people don't understand. Maybe they look at guys like you and me and they say, hey, they wake up and their life is great, but they don't understand that this job is 24/7, especially when we're in America. We're dealing with the European market. We're not sleeping the usual, 9 p.m. till 9 a.m. routine.
Preach.
We might have to wake up at 4 or 5 to get on that Zoom call because in Italy it's 10, in England it's 9, and we have to look like we're there. We have to look awake. So our clock is running 24/7, and I think that's something that our players appreciate. I think that's something that us as partners we love about the game is that it's 24/7. It's a fun place to be, something a part of, and knowing that you're able to help somebody get to the next step. Again, for me, I would have loved to have been a player. I played, of course, pickup, but I never got to a higher level than pickup soccer. And for what it's worth, I still have the memories and stuff like that. But now to say, hey, I can help guide the next generation and or help the current pro make sure that the career is long standing, I think is equally as awesome.
So for someone that's listening to this, that is, because people always ask me, like, Sam, what do you do? What's your day-to-day? And there's a million things that I do. But, like, for you specifically, Chief Relations Officer, what does that entail? Like, do you have, like, a specific schedule? Is it always changing? Are there certain things that you have to do or certain things that you kind of pass on to your partners? Like, what specifically are you doing?
Well, morning is usually I try to hit the European market. I try to get all my emails out by 11, whether I'm trying to reach a marketing company or try to talk to someone overseas. Um, Sometimes I'm waking up to messages from overseas, so I'm getting back into responding to them. This morning I woke up and I had a message from a sporting director at 8 a.m. my time. It was like 4 a.m. when the message was sent. And I was like, okay, so now they're at their noon time. So, it's making sure you meet that right time and you send the right message through. And then obviously just looking for marketing opportunities, sending emails, getting on calls, Zooms until 5 o'clock. And then basically that's it. And then start looking for the next day. Hey, what do I want to target? Maybe having a group meeting with the agency guys, giving each other a call, kind of discussing like, hey, this is what's been happening. What are we doing for tomorrow and this and that. So it's just like a rolling flow. There's really no, I don't want to say a set schedule. You're kind of just looking
based on.
Yes, my Friday might be. I had one Friday where I was on calls from 10 till 3 o'clock, and my wife was like,
Hello.
"Hello." I didn't know we were a call office. And then there's some Mondays where it's just more research than anything, and it's just spending a lot of time looking into every avenue possible. Because again, when you're in this game, you want to be ahead of the curve, I guess you can say it, and you always want to be looking for opportunities to meet new players, to meet new sporting directors, club owners, marketing brands, and all that stuff. So the ability to stay on top of it and constantly be looking for the opportunities is great.
Yeah. So this is interesting because a lot of players, because your agency is a little bit different to the audience that is listening to this podcast. So the audience listening to this podcast is most likely players that are kind of in high school playing club soccer, wanting to go to either to college or to professional. And the agency stereotypically that they're associated with is like, hey, this is our agency and we're going to place you in college or we're going to try and place you in Europe at this club or whatever. But the agencies that the players listening to this don't really understand is like at the next level is the stuff you're talking about, like sporting directors, marketing deals, brand partnerships, things like this. So for you, Tim, I want to talk about like the benefits of having an agency because it is a full-time job. Like you're speaking about and you're like taking care of the player. You're like, for me as an agency, I think you want to make sure that your players just care about going to the gym, eating the right foods, playing, being confident, and you'll kind of take care of the rest,
Yes.
So what are the benefits of working with an agent? What are some advantages that working with you entail? Like what can you do for me as a player?
I feel like what every athlete needs is a support system, right? You have your family at home, but you don't want to give them your day-to-day work. And as you mentioned, as an athlete, you can't be worried about answering emails for marketing deals. You got training at 11 a.m. After that, you have recovery. After that, you need to eat a meal. After that, you might have team meeting to go over game plans. So when in that time are you going to find the opportunity to look for marketing deals? When are you going to find the time to negotiate potentially a new contract? You can obviously try to, but as a professional athlete, your job is to always be at peak performance. The certain tangibles around that, you need the proper guidance or the proper people. So for us, it's telling players like, hey, if you need an agent, you need someone that's really going to support you, that really has your back, that doesn't look at you as just another player on their list, but that looks at you as the most important player on their list, right? Obviously, a lot of agencies will have a plethora of players and a whole bunch of agents, but us being so small in terms of how many people work there, you don't really get one agent. You get three. You get one guy here, one guy there, me. We're all doing different things to help your game off the field that you don't have to concern yourself. And I think that that's an asset that players learn to love because, again, when a problem arises, it's like, hey, well, this is what I have an agent for. Let me call them quickly and say, hey, this, and this. Or, hey, this opportunity came. Can you find out more information about it? Sometimes our players will receive DMs from a company. And they'll say, hey, I like their product, but I want to know more. What can we do with them? So we'll get the information, and then that's our job. But now imagine having to sit there, and you have to do the Zoom. Meanwhile, your coach is in front of you like, hey, are you going to watch game film? Oh, no, sorry, coach. I got to get this endorsement deal, or I got to worry about this contract signing. It's not going to help you elevate your game. So I think like that's a key thing when looking for an agent is having the person that's really going to have your back and that really believes in you as a player.
Got it. Awesome. So that's kind of like off the field in terms of brand deals and marketing. How involved is because again, like I don't think a lot of the audience understand really the role of an agent in terms of like connecting them and how involved they are like in deals. How involved are you in placing the player at a new club or transferring the player? And also, a question that I have for you is like, how does the transfer process work? Like, are you in the USL just waiting for guys' contracts to run out, and then you are like kind of last minute trying to find them a club free agent? Is it like a transfers things that you plan over time? Like, if a player says, "Hey Tim, like I want to get a transfer, like I'm not happy at my club, I want to leave," is that when you act? Like, are you just talking to sporting directors that are like, "Hey, like whenever you get a winger come available, text me." Like, how is kind of like the the process from a player leaving to joining a different club?
So for that, I can't really speak too much on. I haven't had that experience just yet. But I could say that when for us as an agency, because our players are young and we know their ambition, that allows us to start looking for those different avenues to take them to another place. Of course, obviously, we don't want to allow their contract to run out. That puts them in a very tough position because if they have no contract, no club, now we're scrambling for that. So everything we do is being planned ahead of time.
Got it.
So if you're on a 3-year deal, let's say year 1, we're already starting to work towards year 4, year 5, year 6. We don't want to wait till year 2.5 to say, hey, okay, now we got to start paying attention to this guy. So everything that we do is years of planning ahead. And again, that's, I think, why it goes back to your question about why it's important to have an agent, because a player is like, hey, I got 3 years. So in their mind, they're thinking I'm secured for 3 years. But what they don't understand is that year 2 comes, now you have to start acting. If you've fallen out of relations with the club or your performance hasn't been there, you don't have anybody there to back you or guide you to the next club. And then you're scrambling to find somebody to do that for you. And that becomes a little bit more difficult. So that's why it's having an agent is important, having a group of agents working for you, behind you, and seeing, not perfectly, but kind of seeing the future for you and kind of building you a timeline, right? I think that's something that all athletes need, structure. Just same way as your eating regimen, your training regimen, your future regimen, right? Like, what's it going to look like? What is your vision board? I guess you can call it.
Because one of the things, like I was actually on the podcast with Connor, I was talking about like I wish I had an agent coming out of college. Like I was kind of trying to do the pro process out of college. I was completely blind. Like I had no idea what I was doing. I was like just sending a bunch of emails. But I mean, most sporting directors clubs are working with, you know, the agent. How do you source your players for your portfolio? Like, are you going and watching players? Are you just getting sent like videos of guys? How does someone become a Supra player?
Well, for me, I think now, personally, I like the youth route. I think that that's an excellent time to pick a player and really start to say, is he pro type player? Because you can't say pro ready, right? If the kid's 15 years old, 16 years old.
They haven't had that experience.
Yeah, we don't know how they're going to develop 17, 18, 19 years old. But we look at them and say, hey, you have the height, you have the structure, you have the technical ability. So now what we need to decide is, does that technical ability need to get better? Does your height fit your position? Right? So sometimes...
So you're like kind of mentoring the player.
Exactly. So for us, there's, I think a great case would be like Bodie Hidalgo. He came up as a right winger, but as a pro, he's a right back who also transitions into a center back. He can play all across that right side. And if you ask a player today, hey, can you play the left wing? Oh, no, I'm usually on the right. So right there tells you what's their commitment level. Because if a player is not trying to learn how to adapt, you don't know what coach you're going to end up with, right? You see in England all the time, coaches get fired like water bottles get bought every day. And, hey, this guy might have liked you as a left winger. This guy might have liked you as a left wing back. Can you play the left wing back? Can you come in? Yeah, if you go under Guardiola, can you invert? Can you be a striker but play as a second striker? All these things start to happen. So you as a player, when we're looking at you, we're trying to say, hey, how many positions can you potentially play? Do you fit the new age of football? There's always a constant revolving door around football. We went from the 4-4-2 to the 4-3-3, holding with the 10. Now, guys like James Rodriguez will tell you the 10 doesn't exist anymore. It's double
luxury,
eights.
No more luxury players. Yeah.
Exactly. So you're seeing all these players be able to be versatile. So when I'm looking at a player, when we're looking at a player, it's like, hey, how versatile can you be? Do you fit the structure that the sporting directors and clubs are looking for? I don't want to say like there is a height requirement, but there is like a number. They're like, hey, we want to see this height. We want to see this body build.
So I want to talk to you about this too, because this is a really good topic that I want to talk about youth soccer players, because that's like perfect for our audience, really. That's who we're talking to. But in terms of like physical attributes, right? Because there's this all big stereotype like American soccer, college, pro is just about who can run the most, who's bigger, who's stronger. Do you think that's a fair stereotype, or how would you kind of argue with that?
I would say that is a fair stereotype, and I think that's something that you're seeing a transition away from that, and it's only going to continue to transition away from that by bringing outside influence in. I think the fact that you see the federation go and sign a guy like Mauricio Pochettino tells you that we're okay breaking away from that. But it's also the lifestyle that these kids in America have, right? How their bodies are brought up are different than, I want to say, all of the people outside. Because as we mentioned, off the cast, we were talking on the side, these kids here have the ability to play baseball, basketball, American football, maybe hockey. All these sports require a different profile of body. So these kids might bulk 1 year to play, American football, and then they're trying to get rid of the weight so they can go be fast and play soccer. And this changes how their body grows and how it develops. So that's why I always tell an athlete, like, there's not many that are going to play two-way, right? You see some athletes that, Jordan, he was a basketball player, went and played baseball. Other players that might have played two sports professionally. Those are a dime a dozen. Pick what you love. Pick what you're willing to give it all for, and then start to mold yourself into that player.
And for someone who's listening to this that's 15, 16, that's like, is it too late? Is it too late, or you have to pick at 4 or 5?
No, I think if you have the desire to work, this is the best time, because at 15, what's your responsibilities? At 25, when you're coming out of college, you're like, hey, I got to go pro or I got to get a job. I don't have, I can't ask mom and dad. You could if you want. Obviously, it depends on your lifestyle. But most players at that time, you're adults now. So you're going to need to transition into that. But at 15, if you say, hey, I've played soccer recreationally, I really love it, I want to start getting heavily into it, the route to pro might be a little bit more difficult, of course, but the route to college might be something that comes more available. We actually had a kid on this MPSL team that I coached last year. He had only been playing soccer for 3 years, and he might have been one of our better players.
Yeah.
He played junior college here in Miami-Dade, and he just transferred to Division II in Colorado.
Love it.
So I think in a 5-year span, he went from a kid that played probably like me recreationally to falling in love enough with it to put the effort in, to developing in a role as a left back 6. He could play multiple positions, to getting a college from outside of America also. He came in for that.
So a lot of players who are listening to this will be like, yeah, that's great, Tim. Like, I'm 15, I'm going to take soccer seriously. I'm going to become a pro. Like, okay, I'm going to listen to what you say. I'm going to do it. But then they're like, okay, do I need to go to the gym more? Do I need to eat better food? Do I need to go and hire a private trainer? Do I need to hire a mental, what do you call it? Like a
therapist?
Like
sports therapist.
Like a sports therapist. Do I need to hire someone to do my flexibility? Do I need to hire like a tactical coach, video analysis coach? When you say like you need to focus in on soccer, what do you mean by that?
Well, you need to, for me, this is just speaking
your
personal opinion. If I was to start at 15 and say, hey, I've been playing as a striker, right? Everywhere I go, I play as a striker. First, finding a club, right, that will give you the opportunity. Because if you're not really playing anywhere, doesn't matter if you get a trainer or this or that, where are you going to showcase your talent? So finding the proper club. Obviously, I'm hoping at 15 you have a good eating regimen and stuff like that. And it's also watching tape. I had somebody, and it was a European kid, and he tells me, I've been having trouble finishing. So I started watching other pro finishers. And I laughed, and I said, I've never heard of Americans say that. So it's always watching. Obviously, you're not going to be able to replicate everything, but you learn movement, right? So maybe you're watching Luis Suarez, and Luis Suarez is what you consider a clever striker. He's always offsides. If you ever watch him, he never is onside. He's always playing offsides because he knows the balls are going to the wing. So now he already has a step ahead of the defense. Clever striker, right? Or you want to be a typical 9. Or do you want to be a false 9? Do you want to be a Firmino? Drop into the box, get the ball, laid off to the wings, and then you cut in. So watching tape, deciding what kind of football you want to be, and then kind of transitioning into that. Yes, going to the gym, but if you're going to be a pacey guy, do you want to add too much weight? Too much, no, excuse me, not weight, muscle, or if you're going to be a center back, hey, I got to go to the gym, bulk up, but at the same time,
to be strong and agile.
Agile, and you want to see that these other center backs are ball playing. So you want to make sure you stay technical, light on your feet, able to play that ball out from the back. So there's different intangibles you have to pick and choose. But I feel like there's a whole lot of components that go into it. I don't want to make it sound like it's that easy, because it's not. I mean, how many kids in America want to be pro? How many kids across the world want to be pro? It's 1% that make it.
So for when your agency is talking to clubs about what do you need, like what you're looking for, obviously they're very specific on what they need. But what are some general things that they're looking for? Is it personality? Is it I just need a striker score goals? I need a centre back who's left-footed. I need someone that's 6'2". What are some general things that clubs ask for in players?
So you said the height thing was right. Generally, they're looking for midfielders and at 180 centimeters. Let's say that's like the cutoff line for height-wise. 9s, they're going to obviously ask, hey, I need a clinical finisher. But they will also look at, hey, I need age-wise, right? Because you might say to me, Tim, I need a number 9, and I bring to you a 32-year-old, and you're going to say, hey, that's out of the age range. So age comes into it, height comes into it, positioning, what you're doing. If you're a midfielder, hey, I need a box-to-box. Hey, I need a 6. Hey, I need a 10. I need a guy that can come and play a second striker. So there's all these different things that we get asked to look at. But when it comes to, height and physical shape, they have a standard that they want to start at. And it's usually like 180 centimeters of height.
Got it. And then, so for youth players, when you're going and kind of reviewing profiles and seeing who you want to bring in, who you want to help, what are some red flags that make you not want to work with a player?
Ooh. What were some red flags? I think first and foremost for me personally would be attitude. So if I'm coming to watch you in the game and I see you're too leisure about your play, I'm like, okay, so you're not committed. And
what do you mean by too leisure?
Well, let's say if you're a 9 and you see all your team pressing, and I see the 9's not pressing and just walking and kind of just hanging out. Or if I see the center back on the ball and, just kicking the ball wherever he wants to the
not
corners,
stepping up with the line.
Not stepping up with the line, not being involved in the game. Like, you're there, but you're not really caring to be there. It's like, okay, well, you have not the desire that we want for a player. Because, again, at 15, 16, you're shaping yourself mentally, right? Your mentality does grow as you get older, but in sports, it can't wait. They say the adult mind doesn't mature until 30. Well, if you want to be a pro athlete, you need to mature quickly. And I'll give you an example. I had this kid that I was speaking to, him and his father, and great kid. He was playing over in Miami Rush. He ended up going over to Mexico, and he's playing with Guadalajara. Their youth is set up. When I first spoke to him, timid, shy, didn't really speak to me. Came back after just 3 months of being in Mexico and training, comes in, shakes my hand, standing tall, standing strong, and you see that his characteristic completely changed. And I told his dad, I said, hey, look at this. And this is what I love. When I see a player able to go someplace, receive whatever comes their way, and mature into the next evolution of player they want to be. That's a big step for me.
How important do you think is like the character of a player? Because I go and, probably similar to yourself, you go and watch players and they're speaking to the referee or they're complaining to their coach, or I speak to a lot of players and they're always complaining like, oh yeah, we lost, like the coach doesn't play me in my right position, or like I'm not playing as much as I'd like to, and I'm like, yeah, how much video did you watch? Did you ask the coach like how you can fix this, like how to play more, like what he wants from you? Oh no, not yet. Like, and they're complaining and making a lot of excuses. And I think like the character of a player is so important because that's like their personality, you know, and I think that reflects in their game too. But you talk about like attitude and character, like what do you think is the relationship between like the character of a player, how they've been brought up? Do you think that you can change your character, you can change your attitude, or that's just kind of you're done with it and you're set?
I tell youth players, obviously, you're never going to be happy with the referees in any sport,
Especially in the US.
especially in the U.S. And I've seen the levels of refereeing from amateur to college to pro in the U.S. It is what it is. But as a player, if you spend 90 minutes on a pitch, 75% of it arguing with the ref, you haven't done anything, right? It's like the rookie that's playing in the NBA that doesn't get that all-star call. You know, hey, LeBron's getting touched there and he's getting the foul. How come I'm not? You haven't earned that yet, right? Everything in sports is about earning your way. And if you as a character already at 15, 16 are spending more time arguing with the ref, then that just goes to show that you're more concerned about getting things to go your way rather than fighting through, let's say, an obstacle, right? And then again, as a pro athlete, you're going to face a lot of obstacles. It's never going to be a clean road through. You might get an injury. You might get cut. You might be told you're not good enough. But all those things are character builders. Because if you're able to say, hey, I wasn't good for this coach, but that coach might like me, but I chose to regress because of my character and not even try to go further, it's a loss on you. So that's why I always tell players, the right mentality, the right attitude, they might not be enough to make you pro, but they're going to give you a fighting chance, right? And I always relate, and I think you can think about it too, about the Jamie Vardy story. Like, this is a character, a strong character.
Didn't give up.
Didn't give up.
Discipline.
Fought. I don't know how much you read into his story, but he was working the mills and then going and playing amateur football until someone gave him a chance. 24, 25, 26. You know, that story is, again, 1 in a million, you know, but
it shows
that's the kind of character you want. Hey, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to fight. Only issue, and I think we can all agree to it, is that there's not that many pathways in America for that. In England, I love it. You know, you see, I always found it a little comical, #United. You know, like some guys that came together over YouTube footy to create a club that creates players now that can go pro. You have that opportunity in England, in Spain, in all these different parts of the world. But in America, unless you have the financial backing, it's very hard.
What do you think about kind of like Europe? Cause I know you were talking about like the striker that was like watching film and getting better versus an American player. And I see a lot of like youth American soccer players, and I always say like a big kind of focus of what I've been speaking about is like tactically they're not at the level. Like I've had a couple of guests on, and they're saying like tactically, like American players are obviously big. I'm not stereotyping, but generally speaking, they're very fast, strong, physical. You put them over in Europe, and they'll just run past players, and like they're not there. But like knowing when to press, how to defend the space, not the man. What are some differences you see between like European youth players and American youth players?
Well, I think it's just that. I think it's so going back to when I was younger and was in Germany, they would play different types of games to make themselves better. It wasn't just, hey, get on the field, kick the ball around, and go home. They'd be there from sunrise to maybe like noonish, 1ish, go home, have a lunch, go back to the pitches. Kids would leave, they would transition to a smaller pitch, and they would be playing, again, different tactical games. And I was 10, 11 at the time, and these kids were already thinking of that. Hey, you know, we're going to play only shooting from the left side. So we have to build up, and all the possession needs to come from right to left, and we need to finish from the left side. Like, do you see America? I don't see that in America. I don't see kids on their own doing that.
Why? Again,
I think that it's just comes down to the coaching and the levels. I think as a federation, I don't want to say too much, but as a federation, we need to have the coaches start to implement patterns and ideas into these players' minds that they can constantly be using when training on their own.
Yeah, because I had an American coach from Athletum, Alec. He's an MLS Next coach, and he was saying like he went to Germany actually to get his UEFA courses and stuff, and he was saying like in the US you just don't have that. Like the coaches don't have qualifications. They're not like educated that much. And I don't want to really like talk about that too specifically, but just in terms of going back to like players, why are there so many players from Europe that are? Do you think it's just like the infrastructure and the history? Like America's still kind of like a young soccer sport.
It's super young. I mean, MLS has only been around for 25 years, you know? And again, like we said, you have the 30-odd clubs in MLS. You have another 25, 26 champions, you know, USL Championship. You got 14 USL 1 teams. Where's the growth? If you look in Europe, the kids that are developing under a pro academy. I mean, you can speak better on it because you lived in England and maybe you know the setup better, but maybe there is what we consider pee-wee football where you'll play for like a club, but their association is to a pro club. So by the time you're U9, U10, U11, maybe joining Everton, maybe joining a Crystal Palace. Here in America, what are you joining? There's not enough clubs to feed the amount of kids that there are in America and to train them all. So you're going to have guys that, hey, I want to create an academy. And then they're going to go out and create an academy and they're going to hire coaches and they're going to get players in. But as the saying goes, it's a pay-to-play system. So now they're like, all right, well, we have to make money because the fields aren't cheap to rent. Infrastructure, right? We don't have our own field. So I got to pay this fee, got to pay that fee. I may got to charge the kid. I got to charge this. I got to charge that. All these things, I believe, hinder the growth of the sport. Because again, basketball, there's courts all around. You know, there's in every high school, there's a gymnasium that you can run 2 courts at the same time. With soccer, you have 1 pitch, and you gotta have to share the time, and you gotta do this, you gotta do that. The fees are crazy because they know it's such a limited space. So how do you build proper educational system for the youth players if you don't have the proper infrastructure, if you don't have enough clubs to offer a non-pay-to-play atmosphere? How are you finding the best players? Because little Tommy over there might be better than Jake, but Jake's mom and dad can afford that 5, 7, 10 grand a year that it costs in academy football. I don't know. All the reports, that's where they're shining them too. But Jack is nowhere near Tom. Tom is the better player. So how do we get that guy an opportunity? In America, I think it's going to be, you're going to see it. And I think maybe the USL will build it up more than the MLS is. And that's just going to be based off the promotion relegation type thing. But you need the infrastructure. You need the pathway of pro, but not just be, okay, I'm playing here and I'm going to hopefully make it pro.
How do you think that the USL announcement of promotion relegation, when you heard about that, were you excited? Were you kind of like confused? What were your initial thoughts?
I was very confused because I didn't understand the names for the
division.
Yeah,
same.
They're like USL Division 1. I'm like,
is that below USL 2 or
I was like, okay. I think it's going to be very exciting. I think you kind of see it within the US Open Cup, right? Where you see fans following their like local team that decided to register. You have that team out in California, the Restaurant Foros, I believe the name is. They just they won again. They
Farolito.
beat
I used to play against them.
Oh, there you go. They beat Monterey Bay.
Yeah.
That's exciting, right? Yeah. So you can find these little clubs that maybe have the players and they can work their way up to get promotion. There's an end game. I think Tyler Adams said it the other day, like, what's the point? If MLS doesn't have pro rel, what's the point? What are you playing for? When you have the opportunity to
play, the end of the season, you got 3 games left and it doesn't matter. Like,
I'm just going to show up.
Whereas in Europe, it's like, guys, I'm like, my salary is on the line for these last 3 games, you know?
Because you could be 18th place, but you win 2 out of 3, you're in 13th, and you're safe.
Yeah.
And then you get to stay. So I'm really excited to see what happens. I'm excited to see how it develops. Obviously, they haven't really given all the facts out, but some things that we've heard, you know, through the rumor mill is that it might just be promotion the first few seasons, that it's not going to be relegation. It's going to be promoting into Division 1 and then seeing who's fit enough to be there. and then kind of building out the next 2-3 leagues that come within it.
I think overall it's going to be good for American soccer, you know.
And again, it's the difference. It's going to bring investments, right? It's going to bring guys, hey, I love this. I want to buy in. I want to get involved. You see it right now in the championship level. How many pro players in Europe that are American are buying into the clubs? You have Timothy Weah with Brooklyn FC. You have Tyler Adams, I believe, is with Westchester now.
And USL 1.
So you see these guys are buying in to the system
because they see the
they see the future, and so that already excited me. And then the announcement of that was like, okay, cool,
something's happening.
Now the only thing I want to see is, can a local club build their way into the pyramid without needing the buy-in, right? Because
USL is a big buy-in.
Yeah. USL 1 is around 10 million. USL championship is I believe 20-25 million, and obviously MLS San Diego was 400. San Diego was 500 million. Yeah. So that's what, again, people say, well, that's why they can't have pro rel in MLS. Imagine you paying 500 million for a club and then getting told, all right, go to the second division. It's like, what? You mean my marketing's going to go down, the cuts, the TV rights, all these things are going to get changed.
Yeah, no chance. Yeah.
So that's why I think the USL will make it promotion first, maybe, just so that everyone gets an even playing field. Yeah. You get pushed into it, and then, hey, now you made it. Go secure your investments. Go do this, and that, and that. But also, it'd be awesome to see a Farolitos team, or my local amateur club, FC Kendall,
like the FA Cup,
like be involved and have a chance to promote into those leagues, and I think that will be tremendous. Good. Because then you'll see more youth development, more guys, more teams showing out their youth players. Because again, the more you develop youth, the higher clubs see that, they buy it. It's a big investment is the players itself. Getting outside investments is great, but the biggest investment is your players. Can you make them better? That ultimately the biggest clubs want them, and then they're willing to pay. I think there was a transfer, and I don't remember who it was, but it saved a 4th division French side because they had a sell-on clause. And like, you laugh and you're like, that guy played there, and it's like, yeah, he played there for 1 year, and that was enough for them. When they moved him on, they sold him. But again, that structure doesn't exist in America, and it might not exist for 50 more years. You don't know, right? It's like, how long has European football been going on that all these things have developed? America's still catching up. It's the same way as in Europe, they're still catching up into American basketball. You start seeing now, hey, you got Luka Doncic and Nikola Jovic and stuff like that, and they're doing great. But it's not a full run of Europeans in American basketball. And it's the same thing in European football. You see the Christian Pulisics, the Tyler Adams, the guys starting to develop, the Weston McKennies that are being integral parts of their team. Not just on the team, integral parts of their team. But it's not enough. Like, we want more Americans there, the same way as Europeans want more Europeans in basketball in America. So you have to see the infrastructure that grows there. Same thing, the infrastructure that grows here for American soccer. There needs to be more clubs. There needs to be more development from those clubs, and there needs to be a better system of coaching. Not coaches, but coaching. The layout, the way that they do their regimens, the way that they teach their players, and ultimately more commitment from the players. You can't be a 5-sport player and go pro.
What's your biggest advice to young players that want to be pro?
Act like you haven't gotten there yet, even when you get there. Always have the mentality that you're grinding. Always have that commitment level high.
What does hard work mean to you?
Hard work means you're doing your job, right? Like, one thing my parents always told me when I came home and I was like, hey, I got an A. They're like, okay. When I came home with a C, they're like, what do you mean a C? I'm like, when I got an A, you didn't care. Why do you care when I get a C? We expect the A. So I expect the hard work. That should come automatic. If you're not willing to work hard, then what are you working for?
What do you think the relationship between hard work and luck is?
I think they coexist. I think sometimes your hard work will get you that lucky moment you need to be where you want to be, right? I think of that for myself too. Again, somebody that had no involvement with football. I wanted it. I worked hard at it. I made my networks within it. And that little bit of luck led me to Supra, led me to Mario and Peter, led me to getting the opportunity to be a named partner amongst those two that have been working so hard to build out their agency that they trusted me, but they saw the hard work. But it took a little bit of luck because I had to meet the right people.
But you only got the luck because you worked hard.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so. I believe.
No, I agree. I always ask this question because I tell all the players, like, the harder you work, the luckier you get. Like, the more doors are going to open because you put yourself out there. Like, nothing's going to happen if you do nothing, you know? And I think, what do you think kind of has been the biggest success for Supra in terms of, like, you've obviously grown, like, very well and you've had a lot of success. Do you think it's because, like, why? What makes what's made your agency successful, do you think?
Well, I want to think it's my partners, honestly. I think that, again, their hard work, their tenacity, their care. When we have conversations and they're really into it. You know, you can see somebody whether they like something or they love something. And when I speak to my partners and when they educate me, because I'm still young in the game, so I look at them as mentors, right? The same way as a youth player might look at me as a mentor towards their career, I look at them as mentors to flourishing my career more. And I see the passion that they bring, the hard work that they bring, we're not going to give up, even if the odds are against us. Again, signing players is not easy. They're not going to be knocking down your door. We want to be a big agency, but by name, not by quantity of players. We don't want to be the agency that signed every player, but we want to be the agency that signed the players that we believed we could help. And you see within them that they're always working to find that right player.
I know you're not obviously a college agency, but I talk to a lot of my friends about, like, I have a lot of friends always that text me, "Oh, Sam, like, what you're doing with Select is awesome. I want to set up an agency," like, and I'm like, I get this every week. Like, I swear I see my friend set up an agency and he starts posting on Instagram and a month later nothing, you know?
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, the college agency specifically, I think is quite a saturated kind of place for agencies to start. Why do you think soccer agencies in general, not college, not pro, just soccer agencies in general, what do you think makes the best ones the best? Why are the best soccer agencies the best one?
Again, I can only speak for my agency, but I think what makes Supra the best is the fact that we're so detail-oriented. Let's use that, right? Because like you said, a lot of people want to start something, but they don't want to see it through. And that goes to what I said. Do you like something or do you love something? Are you obsessed? Because that's the same thing for a footballer. Mm-hmm. Hey, you want to be the best? You have to be obsessed. You want to be an agent? You have to be obsessed. You have to be obsessed in finding the right guy, creating the right moment for them, and bringing them and dealing with the waters, the muddy waters, the clean waters. You have to be willing to do all that. And some guys, they see your success and they say, hey, he just posts a podcast and he signs players. I can do that. But how many years were you doing that for? It didn't happen. It didn't happen overnight. Yeah. Some success happens overnight. Those are the successes that end quickly. It's the ones that build it brick by brick and create the platform that's needed to get to where they want to go, that succeed long term.
What's been your biggest hardship in the space? Like, what is there been like a moment where you were like, I really don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it? Has it been like a period of time that you were going through? Is there kind of anything through this kind of journey of being or working with the agency that you've really struggled with or really had to overcome?
I think as the relations officer, it's building the relations, because if I send 100 emails and I only get one back, the first few weeks is cool. I remember I was working trying to get sporting directors to reach out. So first one I messaged, he answered me back. And I was like,
this is easy. Let's do it.
I was like that. I'm like, I have it. I have the talent. I'm the line. I'm reeling in the fish. It's not a problem for me. That was it for like 6 months. No matter how many emails, and that was all that I spoke to. I got a couple of replies via email, but nothing. He was like, hey, here's my number. Give me a call. Let's have a chat. I was like, that's it? All these years, I thought you had to actually like do something. No. And then when it came to brands, have 3-4 productive meetings. And then, hey, just following up. Hey. And then you're like, did I do something wrong? And now you're reading back through all the emails. You're checking all your notes.
You're stressed. You're overthinking. Yeah.
And I'm like looking at my wife and I'm like, honey, what am I doing? Like, and then, again, it's you get that one thing for your athlete and then they send you that message like, hey man, this was exactly what I needed. Like, thank you so much. And you're like, okay, 1,000 emails later, the athlete's happy. I did my job. I can breathe a little bit, but I think that's the thing. And I think it's the same thing in most careers, right? It's the starting out, the no's, waiting for the yeses.
Your ego.
How
I want to talk to you about this too, because I said it on a podcast recently, like the hardest thing too is like your ego a lot of times. Like I wanted to ask you too, like you didn't really have a playing career. So when you go and watch players and you're trying to talk to them, have you ever been disrespected by a player? Like, who are you? Why are you talking to me?
No, thank God, no.
Yeah.
No, and I think, again, more so the fact that when you go to a player, they're really, and especially working with young players, they're very like, oh, like someone noticed me. Obviously, I can't speak on the pro players. I've spoken to pro players and I've had conversations with them, but they have had agents, so for them, they know the tone to be at. The young kids are always very receptive. The parents are always very intrigued. Obviously, the only way that a parent wouldn't be intrigued is if they don't want their child to go pro. And I've met some parents that are like, hey, my son loves it. I want him to love it, but like I don't want him taking that risk. Like if he can go to college, I want him to go to college, get 4 years, and after that, if he can go pro, he goes pro. If not, he's good.
So what happens if you're like to a parent? I truly believe that your son has the ability to go pro, and they still tell you no, he needs to get an education. He has to go to college. How do you kind of deal with that?
I say you have my number.
Okay,
that's it.
So
I don't press it. No, because again, you're basing your hope that this 15, 16-year-old is gonna pan out, right? And if they don't, you take the blame for it. So I've had a parent that was in the beginning, hey, I want to see what my son can do. And a few weeks later, you know what? I want my son to focus on college. I said, you sure? He goes, yeah. I said, listen, you have my number. If anything changes, you let me know. I still see them at games because they'll be playing against teams that might be scouting other players from. And we'll say, hi, how's everything going? This and that. I'll see that with the club, they went overseas and they did something with another club that they might have a relationship, the clubs between. And I say, hey, I saw him over here in Latvia, let's say. Like, how was that experience? Oh, he loved it, this and that. I said, so still thinking not pro route? You find ways to ask without saying like, hey, let it be. Obviously, again, at that age, I'm not going to disrespect the parent and talk to the child without the parents thing. Obviously, when the player becomes of age and maybe prior to going to college, they're 18, 19, they reach out. And that's the thing too, right? With the youth setup, you see these kids going to college their first year at 20, 19, borderline 20, because they're playing U19, hoping for the right opportunity. And now you're 19, 20, and you're trying to look for pro. Yeah, you might have an opportunity, but the opportunity might not have been as good as it was. So again, I never pressure a situation. We'll never pressure a situation. If you want to work with us, we're here. We ready, put our hand out, showed you our cards. If you don't like what we're dealing, then it's okay. We understand.
Players that want to be professional, that think that it's an amazing lifestyle. You get paid loads of money. You just play football and eat nice foods and, have all these girls in your DMs and this is the lifestyle, right? What are some of the realities of being a professional soccer player that people don't think about?
It's a 12-month job. Vacations are short. Travel is there. Time away from your family exists. So, again, the grass isn't always greener. It's obviously much better because, yes, when they retire, if they've had a successful career, a lot more doors are open to them financially, on and off the field. But it's not your typical 9 to 5. And so I think that's a hard thing about it in America sometimes too, is the pay scale that they have, for some of these players. Some guys are only making $25,000 a year and a little housing, and they have to make their contract work, and it's super tough. So mental side of it, right? You're playing, you're not getting starting time, you're only getting $25,000 a year, and you're saying, did I make the right choice? So again, what you see from Instagram reels or this or that, that's not always the story, right? Players struggle, have a bad game, have a bad moment off the field with a girlfriend, with the coaching staff, something. It can mess up your whole fluidity. And again, you're not going to go on social media and say, "Hey, I'm sad. Someone make me feel better."
You got to
But
just deal with it.
you got to deal with it, and you have to go out there. You miss a penalty, all your home fans, what are they doing? Booing.
DMing you on Instagram, commenting. Yeah.
And you see that a lot,
Yeah.
right? You see that with a lot of professional athletes, and you're like, man, I would hate that. Like, great, the money's beautiful. I'm sure, you're able to buy whatever you want, but the mental capacity you need to have to withstand that and then wake up the next day and do it again, it's, it's hard.
To a player who's listening to this, that is like, wow, I really want to have an agent now. I think it's going to open up a lot of doors for me. I think that working with an agency will have a lot of benefits. Advice for a young player on picking an agency. Why should you pick? What should you be looking for when you pick your agency?
First and foremost, the agency has to want you, right? So a lot of guys think that messaging all the agents available is going to get them an agency, but you have to be wanted, and you have to want them too. It needs to be a 50-50. It's a relationship at the end of the day. Business or no business, it's a relationship. It's a partnership that you're hoping goes on 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. So you have to really make sure that the agency wants you as a whole, because then they're fully going to support you. How flexible are they caring about you, right? So some guys might be like, listen, I want you to be my agent. Just make my deals. Don't bother me. And some guys might say, hey, I want a buddy. I need a buddy system, a support system. So is that agency providing that for you? Do they seem like the type to be open-armed for you? Do they have time for you? So I feel like these small little things that might not seem pertinent right away are keys. Because again, when you're looking at an agency, you're saying, well, what kind of connections do you have? They might have all the connections in the world, but at the end of the day, you have to still be good enough to make that connection happen. Because I can say, hey, I'm going to take you on trial, and we're going to go to this team in France. And I bring you there, and you don't do well. Okay, we'll go here. We'll go there. After 5 times, I say, hey, I'm ruining potentially my credibility. So you're not of this level. And now you get left in the dust. Maybe that agency was too big for you at the time, right? Like, you have to know your level. And you have to be willing to accept it. I've had a lot of guys, they've asked me opinions. Hey, I want to go this league. I want to go that league. I say, hey, unfortunately, this is the truth. Here's your stats. Here's your numbers. Here's this, here's that. They're like, you know what? No one's been that transparent to me. Find an agency that's going to be transparent to you. Even if they tell you no. Doesn't mean your career is over, but at least they're being honest. Honesty, integrity, all these core fundamentals that you want from somebody, I think you need to want from your agency as well.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Last question, Tim, for you. For a player or parent that's listening to this, and that is thinking, I want to be a pro. I want to make it at the next level. I don't want to play college. I want to be a professional soccer player. I want to get paid to play football. What advice do you give to that player? How can they become a pro?
I think honestly, it's a hard question to answer. And it goes into the luck part, right? If you're hardworking, you're devoted, it's what luck will you have? What is your setup? Realizing the signs, right? Because you might be on an MLS Next team. You might be playing MLS Next Pro. But do you know your team's intentions for you? Do they plan to bring you to the first team? Could you have already gone to USL Championship? So these type of things will hinder a player going pro. A kid might say, hey, I'm ready to go pro, but they're not giving me a pro contract. Okay. Do you have a plan B? No, I really want to play for this club. Hey man, if they're not giving you the love that you need, go elsewhere. Make them regret it, Goes to the case of Diego Luna. He was with San Jose, an MLS team. He ended up at El Paso and then ended up being one of the highest transferred players back into MLS at a time when MLS was not allowing transfers from the USL Championship. If you're a free agent, you want to come, great. But those things played a big factor. that's a great avenue. Look at all the options you have. Doesn't matter the age, right? El Paso, we have a player. He's 15 years old, signed a pro deal at 15. So USL Championship is open to the youth players. They're big into selling players because they understand the market. They're not trying to hold. Maybe it's the financial restrictions. Obviously, they don't have as much money in USL Championship as they do in the MLS. Some clubs will spend. Some clubs will be looking ways to make money. And they'll do that through player development. So you need to really look at the club you're at. How are they going to help you get to the next level? And if you don't see that, you have to be willing to take the chance. And again, that's something that I believe holds players back in America. It's the ability to take a risk. In Europe, you see stories all the time. Player from England leaves to go to Germany. And they say, hey, what? I want game time. I think it was the case of Jadon Sancho. He said, hey, Man City's not going to play me. Musala, all these guys. Like, hey, you're not giving me game time. I'm good enough. Germany's willing to give me. And now they're being bought back for 100 million, 150 million. So, but again, they're willing to take that risk. Here in America, the kids need to find that. The parents also have to be willing to, because it's a hard thing too. I've had parents tell me, oh, I don't want my kid to go that far. He's 15, he's 16, he's 17, he's still a kid. Well, that's the hardship you're going to face then. Because what happens now if I tell you a pro team wants him? Are you ready to pack up your family's lives and move overseas? Oh, no, we can't do that. We have jobs. We have that. So what's your
priority?
What's your priority? If you want to go pro, what's the sacrifice you're willing to allow your child to make? Because it is that. It's going to a residency and staying there on your own, without mom and dad. Are you mentally strong enough for that? Some kids say, I can do whatever. And then the second they get there and they're like, hey, oh, wait. Mom's not here to give me that bottle of water to wash my laundry. No, I got to do it on my own. Are you ready for those moments? I think it's more off the field than on the field, the challenges that makes a player pro or not pro. Because if they're not able to adapt in every scenario that they're in, it's going to make it super hard for them on the pitch because they're not going to be mentally focused. Oh, man, I didn't wash my clothes. I'm dirty. I'm nervous to be, all these things may be a factor. Mm-hmm. So, again, mental capacity. These players need to be mentally strong if they want to be pro. And, again, just because you're mentally strong doesn't promise anything. But it's a step in the right direction. Absolutely. As I said, building blocks. Absolutely. Mentally ready, hardworking, a little bit of luck. That's your foundation. If you're not willing to commit to some of those things, then it's going to be a long road.
Perfect, Tim. Top man, top advice. I think that was a really insightful episode. I think that gave us a lot of information. And if you're listening to this and you learned something and you're interested or you want to thank Tim or ask him a question or whatever, I'm sure I'll drop his Instagram or we'll drop his Instagram or something below. But top episode. Appreciate your time and look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you and being here today.
Absolutely.
Cheers.